Good Monday morning, everyone. It is the last Monday of March, and I am so excited for this conversation with our author guest, Peter, today. So, you guys listening to Author Talk with me and Russell today, and Fern has had an emergency with her dog, Aria, so she is currently at the vet, and we will give you updates as we get them on how Aria is doing. But you guys, let's dive into the weekend, okay? Because it's an adventurous one to start. Russell, earlier in the week, you sent me some John Wick YouTube videos, okay? Fabulous movie. It was totally worth sitting in the movie theater for 3 hours. I was like, oh, I haven't been to the movie since the first Wonder Woman and Black Panther movie, okay? So it's been a really long time. But John Wick was fabulous. I think it was the best way to just bring everything together in that series and conclude it. It was wonderful. So I highly recommend it. And I got all of my stress and aggression out in one movie. Oh, it was wonderful.
And John, they dress so well in the movie.
I know. It was that. And then it's just, I'm a sucker for action movies, nonstop action, but you tie in some humor, I thoroughly enjoy that. So it's definitely my kind of movie. I loved it. I highly recommend it. I know it was number 1 at the box office this year or this weekend with like the highest ever that I guess that those movies have made. So if you're looking for a good time, you have 3 hours to kill. I definitely recommend watching it. It was everything that I had hoped it would be and more. I'm not even going to lie. I definitely am not a crier and I teared up in the movie. Okay. And I'm not emotional by any means.
Peter, are you a John Wick fan?
I have seen the first 3, and now after Amy's little report, I think I'm going to see the 4th one too.
Yes,
so
you do. It's definitely worth it. I'm telling you, it's worth it. I just thoroughly loved it. And outside of that, right, I went and got my hair done this weekend, which everybody that watches us, I know most of you guys listen to us. If you watch us, it was long overdue. We had comments on it. Good morning. So I went and got my hair done, everybody.
Well, is that because, okay, Peter, now listen. So every year on the anniversary of our interview shows, we repost them on our Author Talk Facebook page. So we posted a Author Talk interview with Amy in it for about 4 years old. And she got all these compliments. Oh, that's the best your hair ever looked. Not anymore. Why doesn't it look like that? Amy got a little upset about it. I think that's why she went and got her hair done.
Now, to be fair, I had a hair appointment for April 1st, but my hair person had a cancellation. So I got in early, okay, to be fair. But yes, everybody, it shows that I do read the comments and I do understand. 4 years ago, I was pregnant with my oldest. So, of course, everything looked better. Okay. And then, it's been 4 years since then. So it's all better. We're all fixed. The red's back in my hair, everybody. We're good. Okay. We are good.
So if anyone has any more comments about what Amy can do to improve her looks, go ahead and comment because she'll be reading them.
Anyways, don't take Russell's advice by any means. Okay. We're not even going to dive into that at all. But I want to hear what you guys did this weekend. Russell, I know that you're in Nashville. You sent me some photos. So let me pull those up while you tell me.
Okay.
What's going on.
I'm in a swinging hotel, the Noel, in the middle of everything that's happening in Nashville. It's beautiful. I'm going to have some sound problem. This is at the, what's the name of it? It's not the,
I don't know.
It's the name of the Greek temple that they built a replica of here. I didn't even know about it. During one of my Saturday morning runs when we were here in Nashville, I ran to this thing. It's beautiful. You need to come see this. This
like
one
Athens? Is that what it is? Like Athens?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's gorgeous.
It looks stunning. Yeah.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. And I got to tell you, we were at down on Broad Street, Broadway, where all the bachelorette parties. I know I've heard about them, and Peter, you may have heard about them. All these, that's one of the things people do here is they have their bachelorette parties here,
Mhm.
but it is way out of control in this town. I've never seen so many drunk, crazy brides and their bridesmaids, and their behavior was like weird. It's
Yeah.
like New Orleans, but exaggerated. And it got to be quite a show here. So Saturday and Friday night, we sat around drinking, watching uh, those parties act like they were in private, but they were in public. It was crazy.
Wow.
Mm-mm.
What can I say?
Mm-mm.
I'm not coming down just to see that. I'll take your word for it, though. I mean,
Well, I don't know, Peter. You're a writer, aren't you? Are you not a people watcher?
I usually am, yes, but not when they're crazy and wild like that. I mean,
Oh,
look for more subtle things about people's behavior, and it wouldn't necessarily be that. More or less, I'd be looking for something, little
I
tips, little tells, something like that. More or less.
right. What I was really sad about, Peter, was that my imagination is not sufficient to have made up what I actually saw going on Friday and Saturday night. It was crazy the way people, like
Yeah.
the way they would dress, and they would dress
Oh,
out in
wow.
public like that. It was good.
Sometimes real life is stranger than fiction, really, isn't it?
Oh, it was juicy. It was juicy.
Russell lives for those kinds of moments, thrives in them, lives for them, thoroughly enjoys watching them for sure. But Peter, what did you do this weekend?
Actually, I got back to writing my book, my second Inspector Fox book, and we went for a walk to get some fresh air. We're still kind of cool up here. It's still winter, and
Oh.
we were out walking when we had a good chance. Yesterday was really a nice day, nice and blue and sunny, and it's good to get some fresh air because it gets stifling here. And actually, we just came back from Costa Rica for 3 weeks, and so our bodies are adjusting to the weather. So there really isn't a lot to do. Like we're kind of homebodies in a way, unless there's something going on like theater but that stuff doesn't usually start till later on, like the early May or something like that, where the weather gets better and we're doing the gardening and things are getting out. But right now, if there's no snow, I'm not out shoveling or anything like that. But yeah, kind of sedentary weekend.
Nice.
Okay, well, I have a question about that. You said you live on 8 acres. Do
Yes,
you and do you have a lot of snow in the ground right now?
I do. We had one of the worst years that we could possibly get.
Right.
In
So,
fact,
do you have one of those big mower-looking things that blows the snow off your sidewalk and driveway?
no, I have someone come in and do it for me. It's just I have such a long driveway. I couldn't possibly. I used to in my early days. I had a snowblower, and I'd get all dressed up with a parka and gloves and a head on, and I head out. And my God, it would take hours just to do it with this thing. And I said, I'm going to hire somebody. I haven't got time. And this last bit, it was so bad. He had to come in actually not with a snowplow, but with a backhoe and a front end loader. He was just hauling it away. We just didn't have enough room to get the cars out of the garage. So yeah, it was pretty bitter. But
So,
That's
are
crazy.
you a wood chopper? Do you go out and chop wood
oh,
on your eight
I have
acres?
no, you're right, Russell. I do have a fireplace. I do have a wood shed, and yeah, we have wood in the bush, and I do swing an axe. I can do that. And let me tell you, a few times when we get those snowstorms and the power goes out, that fireplace is a lifesaver. I'm telling you.
So, do you use swinging the axe as part of your exercise routine?
It's not always, but sometimes. Well, there's a certain part of the season where you have to get out there and do it.
I'm very jealous about that. I
Why?
would love to have a situation where I could swinging an axe would be a part of my exercise routine.
No.
No.
I know it's a weird thing.
Us
Is it?
Texans aren't built for snow or cold weather. That's just not, or seasons, because we don't really get seasons down here. We have hot and like lukewarm. We don't have snow. We don't have anything like that. So when we had that big ice storm 2 or 3 years ago, everything shut down because we don't know how to handle it. So us Texans just aren't built for cold weather. It's just like today's going to be 85. It's really
Oh,
lovely. Really lovely for
oh,
sure.
nice.
Cold, we can't do the
I
cold.
gotta tell you, I miss 85.
Well, I
I miss
mean,
85. I do need to thank our people that listen to our podcast next. Peter, we're like ranked top 10 independent book podcast in America. We're stunned that we were ranked that. We're grateful that we're ranked that. Most people listen to us during the week on our podcast channels, not on Monday mornings. Amy, where can people find us?
yes. So you can find us anywhere that you can look up a podcast: Amazon Music, Apple, Google, Spotify, Good Pod, Stitcher, all of those that you can look up a podcast that you want to listen to. Anything like that is where you can find us. We upgraded our logo because we rebranded and everything like that. But like Russell said, we are just humbled and extremely grateful. We do this because we love talking with new authors or anyone in the writing community or industry, and just getting to know more about them and their passion for it, why they chose to write in their genre. The list is endless, and we just enjoy it. And you guys all know Russell and Fern are authors. I live vicariously through them and just market. That's my realm. I no longer do PR very often. It's more just book marketing. So we just thoroughly love this conversation. And so, speaking of new authors and new books to talk about, Peter, I know that you have this book called Outfoxed, an Inspector Williams Fox adventure. So tell us a little bit about that book.
Okay. Do you want the synopsis basically? Because I can tell you how I started it too. Maybe a better place to start was who William Fox is and where he began. Years ago, we were in Pelee Island. Everyone, I think, knows where that is, on Lake Erie. And Pelee Island was famous for the gangsters, Al Capone, Purple Gang. They used to run booze from Canada, from Pelee Island to the United States. There's a museum on that island, and while I was there, there was a whole history on this booze running. There was a story about a particular fellow who was running booze, and he was so famous that the Coast Guard wanted to get him, and they ran his boat and broke it in half. His boat was called the Midnight Fox. I took that, and I thought, what about if I use that and perhaps even use William Fox as a name? That was one of the beginnings. The other one is that I had a friend of mine who gave me a book called 1421, about when China opened up the seas, and that was written by the late Gavin Menzies. A beautiful book, chock full of all kinds of historical facts about General Zhang He and his treasure fleets that used to sail the seas. So I combined those two together, and a number of different characters, and placed a treasure in Nova Scotia amongst the Mi'kmaq peoples, and I incorporated a couple of people that were sweethearts, Tracy Jordan and William Fox. Tracy's an archaeologist who was searching for this treasure in Hong Kong. She gets kidnapped. William Fox teams up with the FBI, Patrick Riley, in Hong Kong, and they save her. And then they are actually after the Foo Dog Triad, and there's a big race across, from New York to Nova Scotia, and it's quite an adventure I tried to write, and it's I'm not going to give it all away because I'd like people to go and buy the book and read it, but I hope that gives you enough that I've also done a subplot too, where there's a little bit of Chinese espionage involved as well. So,
I didn't know about this island. I said I didn't know about this island, Peter. Probably because you're from Canada, it's like this island of Lake Erie. It's automatically we should know about it. I never heard about it. That sounds really interesting.
Okay, now Pelee Island is a pretty flat island, and it's on Lake Erie, and it's right across basically from Rochester, and not too far from Windsor, Detroit. And it's actually a natural sanctuary for the monarch butterfly kind of flows in there, and a lot of birds flow in there and settle before they move on down south when they migrate. But Pelee Island now has got Pelee Island Winery, and it's a very nice place because you can go and visit, you can do the nature thing. There's a lot of cottages there. A lot of Americans come across from there because it is a Canadian island, and they have cottages there, and they visit. I found the place really nice and pleasant. I had to take a ferry across from Canada to get there. It's almost midway, but it's an interesting place. Got a history with with the
I
gang.
may have had relatives during Prohibition that were there because I had two great uncles during Prohibition that were whiskey runners
That's right.
from Canada through Tennessee into Oklahoma and Texas. So maybe my great uncles used to work there.
That's possible. That's possible.
We inherited their shotguns and overcoats.
Yeah.
I love it. So, Russell, go.
So, what is this your first book?
Yes.
And what got you started writing? This is something Fern always asks about. What was it within you that made you decide to write this book?
Well, I've been writing for a while. Before I retired, I was in a dental supply company, and part of the marketing was writing my newsletter and also some articles for the dental journals. And I had a close friend of mine who would encourage me to do that. He says, you know, you really know quite a bit. Why don't you do a little bit of writing? So that's would encourage me to start writing. And then when I finally retired, I thought, you know, I'd like to do something different. Actually, the same day I signed the papers to sell the business, I signed up for um, a workshop at the library in town the same day. My wife said, "Are you nuts?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to start writing." And so I started writing, and then not long after that, I took an advanced fiction writing course at University of Waterloo, and then I continued to write in that genre because I really wanted to. I had some really wonderful people that wrote, like I like Clive Cussler and a few like Baldacci and a few others who wrote these types of adventure books, and so I thought like I'm going to give it a shot and see what I can do, and I'm enjoying it actually. It's quite good. It's really quite good. So,
So, how long did it take you to write it?
well, when I first started, it was about 4.5 years before I finished it because I took a while to kind of get my bearings because I wasn't sure
Because
how I.
it's hard to learn how to write a book, isn't it? It's
It,
hard.
re- it really is because I did stop. Then I took the course at the University of Waterloo. Then COVID started, and we didn't have much of a choice but to stay in and start writing. So I thought this is the best time. So in the last 2 years before COVID ended, just recently, I'd finished it. We published it just at the end of February, but it took almost 4.5 years with a hiatus. But I don't believe I'm going to spend that much time on the next one. Now, what I've learned about editing and all the other parts towards writing books that I think it'll be a little quicker this time. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will be.
So, what compels you? I mean, when I write, I a particular book, I have an assigned intellectual challenge. Other people want to tell a story or they have a message. What compels you to write, Peter?
Um, I think a desire. At first, I wanted to leave a legacy, and then as I started writing, I felt, well, I have something to say. I really I'm disappointed about the way the world is being treated these days with the Chinese and the Russians and North Korea and all these suppressive governments. And I wanted to say something about how they're trying to destroy our democracy. And so the sub story in my latest novel is something to do along those lines, and my next one will be as well. So that's my pet peeve, and I like to get it out there because there's been some problems. Let's face it. I mean, the United States just recently shot down that balloon that was actually spying. I mean, and there's a number of other things they've been meddling in the Canadian politics. So there's a lot to be worried about. So the more we bring attention to it, the more perhaps we can do something about it.
Right. Well, so I have a question. I know that your book, it's, like it's an adventure book. I know it goes overseas and it does all of that. And I also know that you are a British sports car enthusiast. You used to race those for a little bit and stuff. So does the British kind of race car and stuff, do those kind of feed into your books? Does your character drive one of those, or is it just something that was like a hobby of yours and this is completely separate? They don't kind of bleed together.
No, they are. Like I have to say that I have a martial arts background and a racing background, and I put both of those into the book. There is actually a certain part. I don't know if you're familiar with Newfoundland. They have a race called the Targa.
Mm-mm.
And that's a week-long rally race through the island of Newfoundland. And actually, I do write a little bit about that. And Patrick Riley and William Fox are in one of these rally cars, and they're racing across the island. And of course, some of my background in the racing has added to hopefully to the suspense of while they're driving across the country that they're doing things. And there's other areas too where the martial arts comes in when William Fox has to disable one of the triad gentlemen. I shouldn't call him a gentleman; he's a gangster. But so yeah, some of my experiences do come into the book to some degree.
What type of rally cars have you raced?
Well, these rallies were basically regular British cars that we rallied with the British clubs. But if you're talking about a race car, well, that was a purposely built race car. It was about a '78 Jaguar XJS 12-cylinder. We stripped it out completely, put a roll cage in it, and we were racing with a group called Chump Car. I don't know if you're familiar with Chump Car.
No, but I'm familiar with the car you're describing, and it makes me hold my head that you got to race in a car like that. That's a spectacular event in your life, don't you think?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was really spectacular. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. A group of us. We actually were all Jaguar club members, and we started off going to Ian Law's car control school, and we were doing a track work, learning how to control cars on the track, and then we were doing slalom racing with the Jaguar Club. Part of that was there was a contest right across North America where all the Jaguar clubs who were doing slalom racing and posting their time. So our club was doing quite well. So the boys and we all decided why don't we take it up another notch? And so we got a couple of old cars and we stripped them out and fixed them up, and we got involved with like I said, the Chump Car. Chump Car group I think is still around, but in the old days. You used to have to prove the car was only worth $500 minus all of the safety equipment, and because it was supposed to be for just everybody. It wasn't to be like one of those situations where you really had to have a lot of money and like a Formula One racing and that sort of thing. So it made it more accessible for the regular person. So we got in there. We had a lot of fun with it, and I have to admit that car could really move once you were but when you had to put on the brakes in the flats, because there's a certain point where when you start speeding up on the straightaway, you know you have to stop and start braking, because when you hit that corner at the speed you're going, you want to make sure you take the corner. So even with a car that's modified like that, you have to be careful. So you find yourself going along really quickly. And I used to think that to come off the track, and I tell it that it felt like a freight train on steroids. It was just moving so quickly, but it was exciting. The adrenaline.
And to tie that back in the book, Peter, bring, were you able to communicate that adrenaline of driving, of that break point in your book?
I don't know if I went that far, Russell, but I mean, I did try to make it as exciting as possible without really overblowing it, because they were on city streets. So I mean, it's not the same kind of driving. You have to be a little bit more cognizant because you're on the roads with other people. But on the track, you would be with other people who know how to drive. You expect them to be professional drivers or have some ability, because at those speeds you can't make too many mistakes.
Right. So it seems like, because it's such a passion of yours, that would be probably one of the easier parts in your story to write because of your experience and expertise within that. So when writing, your book one, and I know you mentioned that you're currently working on book two. So I have a follow-up question after this one, but what was the hardest part of the writing process for you? Was it the research? Because I know that they go overseas. Was it doing the research in cities and stuff that they were going to, or was it just having, the flow and transitions? What was for you, the most difficult part in this writing process?
Making it factual, keeping the facts right, and keeping my timeline right, because I did do a lot of writing and I threw it all together. There was a point where we realized that the weather wasn't right for the time of the time of the particular scene, so I had to do a lot of revamping and re-editing. So keeping it accurate, keeping it plausible, was another thing too. But the research, yes, there's a lot of research because a lot of places you just can't pick up your suitcase and say I'm going to Hong Kong tomorrow and I'm going to do a lot of exploring and get my scenes and my streets and all that together. So sometimes you do have to do some research, and I found that the most time consuming. But to maintain accuracy, I think it's important.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned, that the weather wasn't right for like a particular scene for that season in that country or city or anything like that, because I feel like, and this is from a reader's perspective, I don't like, I'm from a reader perspective, right? I'm not going to go research that, but I love that it's accurate to that sense, because I think that that really plays a key role into it. And I've never thought of, whether, making sure that the weather is right for that time period and things like that. See, yet again, this is why I'm not the writer. You guys are, because mine would not be very good. But I think, from the weather perspective and stuff, I think that just is such a beautiful, just a beautiful touch to it, because you're right, being accurate in that sense really is important, and being factual and keeping your timeline and everything right. And so my follow-up question to that is, I know that you're working on book 2, so how many books do you think you're going to put into the William Fox Adventure series? How many are kind of toying around in your head at the moment?
Okay, so I've given myself a challenge. I thought that if I did one for the next 4 years, I would have 5. And
Okay.
that's as far as I plan to go and see where I take it from there. Because I know there's a lot of people who have run their books out to 10 and 15. I don't know if I can go that far with what I have, but I'm going to run it to the 5th if I can, and we'll see where it goes from there.
I love it. So you already kind of have them plotted out in your mind, kind of where like the setting and scene for each book, or you just have, I'm going to do 5 books and everything else is going to come to me at some other point,
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't think I can do all of that. If I had that kind of like if I could read by a crystal ball and say, yeah, I think I'm going to set it up this way. I don't know, because what I'm using is actual everyday political stuff that's happening in the news. So as that changes and it becomes relevant, I'm going to end up using that. So I can't really say, I can't predict what's going to happen in the future.
So have you gone to Hong Kong and Shanghai, etc., to see some of the places you've written about?
No, I was fortunate that my editor was a former RCMP employee for 2 years, and she also lived in the Orient in Hong Kong for many, many years. And so when we ran into some issues that I thought would be, well, proper, she said, no, Peter, we have to change these to make them more authentic. And I said, okay, you have the experience, so we're going to go with what you said. And that's why we tried to do it that way. And I think it's important to get the right feel for things. Like at one time, I didn't realize, I mean, I in all the years I've worked with a lot of Asian people, and I just knew them by their name, but I didn't realize that in forming their name, they always use their last name first and their first names last. And that's what my editor suggested I do throughout the book, which is really a concept I hadn't understood before, but I do now. Because now I'm writing about some other Asian countries, and it's pretty well the same thing there too. So you do get a chance to learn a lot of interesting things as you write, because the research opens up, and then, wow, I didn't know that. And it's a wonderful experience to be able to write. I mean, you probably have done that too, Russell. I mean, you must at least do a little bit of research, and I'm sure you've learned a lot of things as you do that.
Exactly. Like one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm searching for the perfect courthouse to use in my descriptions of the trials in the book I'm writing. And so I'm going to all these little courthouses over in Georgia. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I find that is what helps authors be, in my opinion, the most successful, is surrounding themselves with people that kind of understand the topic that they're writing about and have experience in it, so they can kind of help guide you, right? And I think that kind of feeds to why editing is so important, and getting outside eyes on your book, from an editor standpoint, and then you can do the final kind of walk through and stuff of it, but you have to get outside eyes, right? Because I don't know if you guys are like this, but I'm like this in emails. Okay. If I'm sending an email and I'm sitting here thinking, right, and my thoughts move quicker than my fingers. And so I'll leave words out, but I'll go back and reread it and it all makes sense to me, right? Because it was in my mind and it makes sense. So I think getting an outside eyes on your book is important, but I love that your editor was like, yeah, no, this is how it is supposed to be, to kind of help guide you in that and your research. And so you learn and it'll equip you more for the other books to come in your series. So with that being said, do your books need to be read in the particular order, 1 through 5, the first one needs to be read first, or is it one that you can kind of pop in and out of and still get the feel? Or is it like you're going to leave us on a massive cliffhanger on book 1, you got to read book 2 to figure out what happens? What kind of direction are you planning to go with it?
Well, I think the best route would be just to do it as standalones.
Okay.
I will bring a lot of the characters from the first one into the second one. I will do probably a synopsis of what happened in the first one so that people who are reading the second one will have an understanding of where they are. But I think that all these books should be a standalone. I found that a lot of times when I've tried to borrow a book in the library, I wanted to start at the beginning, but I couldn't, so I'd start the second or third book. And I found that some authors are really good at that. So you can always go back. Yeah.
I love that. And I love this putting, the synopsis of the previous book in there. So that way you don't lose that readership, because, like you were saying, if they can't get book 1, or say that you're on book 3 and they can't get book 2 or whatever, they still kind of know what the plot is and everything kind of going. So I think that that's the best way to kind of capitalize and keep your readers invested, and new readers that are just finding you, right? Because you want to gather new readers as you go in this process with your series and everything. So I think that that's the smartest way to go. And I like to kind of be able to pop around in series and, no one, I don't like cliffhangers. I'm not going to lie. If you leave me on like a cliffhanger at the end of the book and you don't have a book 2 out, it makes Amy mad. Amy gets very upset. I don't like this because I'm impatient in that, where I want to know what's happened. And if you make me wait for a year, I'm very upset with you, So it's definitely one of the
Peter, many things makes Amy mad, so that's not that big a deal.
Russell makes it sound like I'm a very angry person, and I am not. Okay, John Wick took care of all of that. I'm in a much happier space, much happier space. But I do want to show your book cover, and I want to kind of get the direction that you decided to take your book cover, because it is gorgeous. And I love it. I am definitely your target market as a reader. And I want to kind of know your thought process behind your cover. Oh, you have it. Perfect.
I hope you can see it. It's not really all that great there, but anyways, there it is.
I love it. Okay, perfect. I love that. So was this like your envisionment brought to life, or was it your designer that, read your book and kind of helped guided you? What was that cover design process? Because it is gorgeous. Like I want to just buy your book and hold it to stare at the cover, because I'm one of those that I just have to hold the cover in my hand. So I want to know the process that went behind it, because it is magnificent. I really love it.
So we have been thinking about doing, my wife actually had been doing a lot of the marketing and graphic work for us in our business.
Okay.
So she is actually quite a graphic artist. Now, I had asked the Friesen Press, who did my book, to give me, part of the package was they would give me three different looks. And I looked at all of them. I didn't like any of them. I actually had this one put together by my wife. I asked, she said, what do you want? I said, I want a man with a gun. And since we have this Chinese or this Asian, why don't we get something like along the lines that would open up the windows to an Asian motif. So we found a coin. She put it together, and she found the back. We worked together on the font and a few other things, and we had it organized. And I actually took all 4 covers to my Wordsmiths group. I have a group that I go to where we write our little short stories, our long stories, and we share. And this group was quite a nice group. And I just had everyone take a look at the covers. I said, which ones do you like? And everyone was pretty well pointing at this one. I thought, okay, if this is what these people like, I think pretty well we'll go with it. So we refined it a bit, sent it to the publishers, and said, this is the one we want, and let's keep it as true as possible. And when they did send us the book, actually, when it was printed, it was very, very, almost 99, 100% exactly the way we wanted it. And we've been getting a lot of praise for it. And I have to thank my, I have to thank my wife for that. She's quite the artist.
It's beautiful. And it, from a marketing standpoint, right, which is the hat that I wear, it is so much your genre. And, everyone says you never judge a book by its cover. And we all know that that's a lie. You totally do, because the cover makes you want to flip the book over, right? And then the back matters what makes you want to buy the book, right? But your cover, I can look at your cover and I know what genre it is. And I think that that is the point of a cover. And I think that it's beautiful and it's very intriguing and like alluring for me, where it just lures me in. And I'm like, yes, I need to know what this guy is doing. I'm here for it. So that's why when I saw it, when your publicist sent it to me, I was astounded. Like, it's amazing. So your wife is incredibly talented, 100%. We do have a question though. They want to know how you handle your research material. Do you print it? Do you establish electronic documents and place it in folders? What is your research process for your books?
That's exactly it. I copy it, process it, print it, and put it in folders so I can access it. A lot of times I just don't have time to get through all my Word documents online, because I'm already having I'm writing my book, and I got my dialogue and my everything set up, and I want to get something I really want to double check. So I'll just go to the page and open it up and say, okay, this is what I was looking for. So I try to make it simple. I mean, for me, that's more simple than closing off my Word, going to my research, but looking it up, coming back and changing screens and all that sort of stuff. I find that a bit cumbersome because I can lose my place very quickly. So yes, that's exactly what I do.
I love that. So how far are you in book 2? What is your process like? I know that you're just starting to dabble in it and stuff. So how far are you in book 2?
Right now, I'm probably on the 3rd chapter, and I'm still refining the 1st and 2nd. As ideas come to me, I'll go back, and if I cross-reference it, if I put something new in chapter 3, I want to make sure it fits with chapter 1 and 2. So right now, that's where I am. I've got a few pages I wrote yesterday because I handwrite everything. I still know how to write cursive.
Oh, nice. I can do cursive too. I can read it. I like it. You still handwrite it? That's
Dude, you're old school. You
I love
print
it.
out and use folders. You handwrite. You are old school. But it's cool because you raced an old Jaguar 12-cylinder, so you're still cool.
Thank you. Anyways, I think the thought process for me when I'm writing is more fluid, and I understand what I'm writing. I can type, but I don't type as well as a lot of people. I'm like Hemingway, 2 fingers. That's the way I'm at it. So that's time consuming. When I finally finish my writing, I put on the microphone and I type, and I kind of dictate it in there and fix it up afterwards.
So are you like a pantser, or do you outline and follow your outline to a T, or what's your writing style?
Wait. I know the answer to this. He is a planner. Peter is not a pantser.
I feel like he is fluid and flexible. If he handwrites it, I feel like he goes with what he's feeling. I don't know. Peter,
Russell, you earned yourself a drink. Yeah, right on the money.
I was confident enough to interrupt.
Yeah, that's okay. The thing is this, that I do start with an outline, but sometimes my characters run off on their own. So then you're pantsing, but mostly it's outline.
That's not pantsing. That's characters becoming alive within your soul. That's different.
Okay, well, we'll go with that. We'll go with that.
That's good. I like that answer. See, outlines stress me out. So that's why I failed outlines in high school. I could never do them. So I'm very envious of people that can create outlines and stick to it, because I can't. It's just very difficult for me, but I love that. Peter, the conversation that we have had has been amazing. It's so much fun and interesting. And you and Russell write in such a similar genre that it's just refreshing and amazing. Your cover is just, for me, this year, it is my most favorite cover so far this year. It's beautiful and amazing, and you should be very proud of it. It speaks to your genre. And I think that you are onward and upward on your writing and your adventures that you have within your book. And I like your goal of 5 books and, 4 years. I like that goal. So you're going to have to keep me updated on all of it. I'm going to go and buy Outfoxed because it's just, I want to hold the cover. I want to hold the cover and I want to read the book because you have made it sound so appealing, and all the research and time that goes into these books, especially in your books, for me it's a work of art. And I always say, the world would be so boring without authors. We wouldn't be able to have movies. We just wouldn't be able to escape reality for a little bit or live our adventurous James Bond-esque kind of things, and hang out with gangsters. We wouldn't be able to do that. And so I just commend you and thank you for taking the leap and becoming an author. And you have more in your series to come. So with all of that being said, those are my closing statements. And I know that Russell has some. So Russell, is it loud? Can you talk?
I can talk briefly. There's a bachelorette gathering right behind me, though, so I got to be quick. Peter, please tell the listeners where they can find your books.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. They can find them on Amazon and Apple Play. I think Barnes & Noble, pretty well all of the regular outlets have it right now, I believe. Yeah. And of course, if they want to sign one, they can contact me. I can sign it for them, but it's going to be shipping involved too. So, but everything can be found online.
I love that. Who doesn't love an autographed book? If I have a chance to meet the author or know the author, I prefer autographed books. I don't know. Of course it personalizes it, but it just is, I don't know. It's like a hug in a book for me. So every time I see that book, I feel like a warm hug from the author. I know I'm weird. I embrace it, but I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoy it. But Peter, thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to come and hang out with me and Russell and put up with our crazy personalities. Because
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Amy. Appreciate it.
Of course. It's been so much fun. But you guys, we hope you all have a fantastic Monday, a great rest of the week, and we will catch you all next Monday. Until then, bye, everyone.